Assalamualaikum, greetings of peace. I am Nasim G. Pindatun. Good morning, Sir Fern. Good morning, students. Today I will be discussing Chapter 6 Environmental Conservation, Forest, Grassland, Parks, and Nature Preserve. But before we delve into the main discussion, we will have a short energizer, the Four Peaks One Word. I'm sure that everyone is familiar with this game, so without further ado, let us begin. Here is our first word. Do you know what it is? I'm sure you know this one. Time's up. The answer is forest. Next one. I'm sure you got this. Time's up. The answer is charcoal. Last one. This is very easy. Time's up. The answer is paper. Did you all get it right? If yes, then that means this discussion will be an easy hike for you. Now let us begin with the learning objectives. At the end of this lesson, the students will be able to identify the roles, threats, and protection methods for forests, grasslands, parks, and nature preserves. Next, demonstrate appreciation and concern for conserving these ecosystems. And last, apply proper conservation practices and guidelines when visiting or using natural and protected areas. These are our learning objectives for this lesson. First, we will talk about our world forest. In this picture, you can see that there is a world and a tree held together in one hand. It means forests and our planet go hand in hand. They are way more than just trees, but it keeps our world running. Now, in this discussion, we will understand how important our nature to our world. That is why it is our responsibility to take care of our planet. Our forest provides habitat, resources, and essential ecological services. In other words, forests support all life and nature. It gives homes to thousands of plants and animals. It also gives us resources that we use every single day. For example, the paper we write on and even some of the fruits and medicines we use comes from the forest. This explains why we say that forests are like Earth's generous helper because it gives us so much to every living beings. Next is that tropical forests are especially diverse and vulnerable. They are unique but fragile. That's what it means. These forests are home to more kinds of living things than anywhere else on our planet. Many rare plants and animals can only be found here and nowhere else. Even though they look big and strong, they are actually very delicate. Once they are cleared or damaged, the rich soil and special plants disappear quickly and become hard to bring back. This is why we need to be extra careful with them, because losing them would mean losing many special living things forever. And last is forests help stabilize climate by storing carbon. Forests help fight climate change. This is what it means. You know how gases from cars and factories make the world warmer? Actually, forests absorb and hold those gases away. One of the biggest help that we can get from our forest is that it stops floods and it helps stop weather like typhoons. This explains why protecting forests is one of the most simplest but most effective ways to keep our climate stable and safe for everyone. Now let us proceed to the next part of our lesson, the two major forest types. We have the boreal and tropical forests. They are very different from each other, but both are huge and are important parts of our planet. In this case, we are now going to focus first discussing about the boreal forest. The boreal forest is also known as the taiga. It is the world's largest land biome, forming a vast green ring across the northern hemisphere just south of the Arctic tundra. It spans across Alaska, Canada, Scandinavia, and Russia. Now let us find more about its key characteristic. Let us begin with the climate. The winters can last 6 to 8 months in this forest, with temperatures dropping to negative 40 degrees Celsius or lower. Summers are only 1 to 3 months long, with mild highs of 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. And actually, days are very long, especially near the Arctic Circle, which the sun barely sets. So this actually helps us understand that this has a short growing season, that plants and animals only have a narrow window to grow, breed, and store energy. The plants in this forest are dominated by evergreen conifers like pine, spruce, and fir. As for the soil, it is very thin, highly acidic, and low in nutrients. That is why slow decomposition of pollen pine needles keeps the soil poor and frozen subsoil stops tree roots from growing deep. As for the wildlife, it includes cold adaptive large mammals such as moose, grizzly bears, gray wolves, and lynx. And we also have the migratory birds, over 300 species. Now, why do they travel here in this forest? It is because of the abundant food, fewer predators, and it has a long days. Now, why is this forest abundant? It is because it covers a very large continuous land area in the northern hemisphere. Trees are tough and it can survive extreme cold and poor soil. And another thing is that there are fewer human settlements and less land clear for farming here. This time, let's talk about the tropical forest. Now, what is the tropical forest? It is a lush, warm ecosystem found near the equator that contains over half of the world's plant and animal species. It spans across Central and South America, Western and Central Africa, Southeast Asia, and Northern Australia. Now, let us find out more about its key characteristics, starting with the climate. The climate of this forest is hot, humid, and rainy all year around. The temperatures do not drop low, and there is no long dry season. This means living things have steady conditions to grow and survive every month. For the rainfall is very heavy and consistent. It rains often and in large amounts throughout the year. This keeps the whole area moist and supports continuous plant growth. As for the plants, the forest is filled with tall broadleaf trees with thick vines and many different plant types. They grow very close together and form a thick roof of leaves called a layered canopy. As for the soil, it is often thin and does not hold nutrients for long, but nutrients are recycled very quickly. When leaves or branches fall, they break down fast and are absorbed right back by the growing plants. As for the wildlife, this forest holds the highest number and variety of wildlife on Earth. It is home to countless kinds of animals, birds, insects, and plants. Many of these species can only be found in tropical forests and nowhere else. Now, why our tropical forests are so abundant? First, it is because the climate stays warm and there is plenty of water all year. Plants do not need to stop growing or rest during cold or dry months. This means they can grow and produce new leaves, fruits, and branches continuously. Second, they get a strong and steady sunlight every day. This gives perfect conditions for photosynthesis to happen very fast. And third is that nutrients are used very well in this environment. Even if the soil is thin, pollen parts of the plants break down right away and it feeds the new growth immediately of a new plant. Now let us look at this figure. This chart shows how land is used around the world and what kinds of forests we have. Let us go through it simply. First, let us look at the left pie chart about world land use. We can see that forest and woodland cover 29% of all land. Range and pasture for animals take up 27%. Cropland where we grow food is 11%. The rest, 33%, is called the other. This other group includes tundra, desert, wetlands, and towns or cities. It means almost one third of our land is forests and woodlands, which is a very large part. Then, the right pie chart shows the different types of those forests. Tropical moist forest is the largest part at 42%. Next is boreal forest, also at 33%. Then temperate forest is 11%. Subtropical forest is 9%. And tropical dry forest is the smallest part at only 5%. This explains the tropical moist forests and boreal forests make up the most of the world forest areas. We can also see that tropical moist forests are the biggest single type of forest. Even if we combine all other kinds, they still make up a very large share. Each type grows in different places and has its own special plants and animals. Forests are not just homes for nature. They also give us products that we use every single day. Now let us talk about how important these resources are and how they are used around the world. First, we have the wood. It is one of the most useful materials we have. It is used in almost every kind of work and industry. Every year, we use about 5.5 billion cubic meters of wood. This amount is even more than what we use for steel and plastic put together. Selling and trading wood products also brings in more than $200 billion every year. This means wood is not just common, but also very valuable to our daily lives and the world economy. Now, we can actually see the difference in how countries use these resources. Wealthy nations produce less than half of the industrial wood that they need, yet they use up to 80% of it. Meanwhile, developing nations produce most of the tropical wood from their forests, but they only use about 20% of it for themselves. This explains that many resources from developing countries are sent elsewhere to be used by others. Our forests can actually provide its material to produce paper pulp. Paper pulp is a soft fibrous material. It is made by breaking down plants' fiber or even old recycled paper. It uses water and chemicals for this material to be produced. This material is the main starting ingredients we use to make many things we see every day, like paper, cardboard boxes, and even some molded items. This is one of the fastest growing forest products we use today. It takes up about 20% of all wood we consume around the world. Most of it is used in North America, Europe, and Asia. This explains why demand keeps growing as these places build up their economies and need more supplies. We also see differences in where it comes from. In Europe and North America, pulp mostly comes from carefully managed tree farms, so they can grow more trees again later. But in places like Southeast Asia and West Africa, making paper pulp is one big reason why forests are being cut down. It shows that how we get this material can affect our nature very differently depending on where we are. Another product that we get from our forests is fuel wood and charcoal. Now we look at fuel wood and charcoal. These are very simple but very important forest products that many people depend on. Together, they make up almost half of all wood used across the whole world. This means this is actually the biggest use of wood overall. About 2 billion people use this as their main fuel to cook food and warm their homes. In many developing countries, one person uses about 1 cubic meter of wood just for this every single year. As more people live in cities, the need for fuel keeps going up. This causes trees to be cut down faster, especially near towns and cities, and soon there may not be enough left. This is why we need to manage these resources properly. If we plant new trees and harvest wisely, we can keep this useful resource for a long time without running out. This time, let us discuss management and restoration. Taking care of our forests and bringing back damaged ones is very important. Let us look at how we do this and what results we have seen so far. Our current situation is that only about 25% of forests are officially planned and managed just for wood production. We also see many areas turned into monoculture plantations. This means that these are farms with only one kind of tree. They give us wood quickly, but they do not support many different kinds of life. They also do not protect the soil or water very well. Now, allow me to discuss a successful restoration. Many places have shown that we can bring forests back. In China, they planted 50 billion trees over 20 years. This helped stop soil from washing away and stop dry deserts from spreading further. In South Korea and Japan, they were able to bring forest cover back to about 70% after much of their land was cleared. This explains that restoration is possible. But some people also note that these countries may now buy wood from other places instead. So we still need to make sure that forest care is fair everywhere. Now, we have tropical forests are being cleared rapidly. Why does this matter so much? Actually, tropical forests holds two-thirds of all plant life on land. They are also home to at least half of all animals, plants, and tiny living things on Earth. It means losing these forests would mean losing a huge part of our nature. Now you might want to ask how much they have changed. 100 years ago, these forests covered about 12.5 million square kilometers. That is an area even bigger than the whole country of the United States. But today, only about 40% still stand in their original natural state. Now you might ask, how fast are they disappearing? Every year, around 10 million hectares are cleared away. That is about 0.6% of what is left. To make it easier to imagine, that is roughly one whole football field of forest lost every single second. This shows that these forests are vanishing much faster than we can replace them. Now, here is a clear example of what's happening to our planet. This is a figure that shows the forest destruction in Rondônia, Brazil between 1975 and 2015. The first image from 1975, the whole area is a solid green. The thick forest covers almost every part of the land, and there are no roads or clear spaces yet. Next, let us take a look at the second image from 1989. What did you notice in the picture? As you can see, there are straight lines appearing in the map. These are actually roads built to enter the forest. Small areas near the roads are now being cleared, but most of the forest is still there. And last, we have the third image from 2015. Many more roads have spread out in the map. Large patches of forest are now gone and turned into open land. Society grew and many people built homes and farms along the roads, so much that the original forest has disappeared. This figure shows that even small changes like building roads can lead to big loss over time. Once people enter these areas, forests get cleared faster and may never grow back the same way again. Now let us talk about the Indonesia and Brazil. Indonesia now has the fastest rate of forest loss in the world. Back in 90s, forests covered 84% of its land. By the year 2010, only 52% remained. It loses about 800,000 hectares of forest every year. Most of this happens because of illegal plantations for palm oil. As for Brazil, Brazil also loses large areas of forest. In 2004, it lost 28,000 square kilometers. The rate went down for some time but rose again to 16,000 square kilometers in 2017. This is mainly caused by clearing land to grow soy or to raise cattle. But what made this environmental issue to grow further is the building of roads for logging, because it makes people easier to enter when they are going to get some resources in the forest. Many farmers and settlers now move in and clear even more land along this road. Now we are down to this most crucial part: how we detect forest change. This part answers the question: how do we know when and where forests are being lost or changed? We actually use a well-known tool called the Landsat. It is a satellite that takes clear pictures of our planet from space. Each image it takes covers a very wide area, about 185 kilometers across. Even small details are clear. That is because each spot in the image shows an area of 30 meters by 30 meters on the ground. This satellite travels around the Earth in a steady path, and it passes over different places as our planet turns. Because of this, it can take a full set of photos of the world every 16 days. Now that's quite interesting. Actually, you can use the Google Map app to view the pictures. I have actually tried it and it was working. Another interesting part is that we can check the same areas regularly to see what is happening. So there are actually places in the world that can be seen by the Landsat satellite that gets updated every 16 days. The Landsat program began way back in 1972. Since then, it has kept a long and complete record of how our land looks over time. This gives us the best information we have to track exactly how forests grow or disappear year after year. These figures shows how we use images from satellites like Landsat to understand land changes. The picture on the left is a regular view taken from space. It shows shapes and patterns, but actually it is hard to tell exactly what each place is used for. But we use special details from those satellite images to make clear colored maps. Now, this green marks the forest areas, the yellow or brown marks the farmland, and the red marks towns or cities. The map on the right shows the area in the year 2000. Most of the land is green, so there was plenty of forest back then. But in the middle map, it shows the same place in 2013, but we can see much more yellow and brown spread out in the map. This tells us that forests got smaller over time while farms and towns grew bigger. Now, this is why it is important for us to act. We are going to tackle how to save the forest as it stabilizes our climate. Our forests help control our climate. They release moisture and help make rain. For example, the Amazon forest produces much of its own rainfall. When forests are cut down, rain becomes less, land dries up, and temperature rise. This makes it harder for trees to grow back, so more forest gets lost over time. Forests also store around 422 billion tons of carbon. Clearing them releases this carbon into the air, causing about 18% of all human-caused carbon emissions every year. Now let us get to know more about REDD, which stands for Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation. It is a global plan to help fight climate change, and it was first brought up in the year 2005. This idea gives forests a real financial value because of the carbon they keep stored inside. Now let us look at its main goals and purpose. First, wealthy countries that produce a lot of pollution give money to developing nations. This helps those countries keep their forests standing and healthy, instead of cutting them down to earn money. Second, this plan recognizes all the important things the forests do for us. They help control the climate, store carbon, create rain, keep our water clean and steady, and give homes to many kinds of plants and animals. And third is that it aims to lower the release of harmful gases caused when forests are lost. At the same time, it also helps people living in those areas make a good living and supports efforts to protect the nature. Later on, this program grew into something called REDD Plus. It added more goals like protecting forests fully, taking care of them in sustainable ways, and helping them store even more carbon over time. But this is one of the crucial things that is happening to our world. How deforestation and degradation release carbon. Now, we have to understand this because when forests are cut down or damaged, stored carbon goes back into the air in these simple ways. First, burning trees releases carbon kept in wood and leaves as gas. Another one is when pollen plants rot and break down, so the carbon inside them escapes. Another one is when soil loses its natural nutrients, and when it is left bare and dry, it releases carbon dioxide into the air. And the last one is the lost storage. This is when damaged forest can no longer absorb and hold carbon dioxide. So this is how deforestation and degradation releases carbon. The burning of trees, the decaying plants, the soil changing, and the lost storage all helps in releasing carbon. But you might be wondering, what causes deforestation? Actually, there are lots of reasons, but in summary, it is because of the large industrialization when it comes to our agriculture, like when farms clear wide areas to grow crops like soy or palm oil or to raise cattle. Another thing is when companies cut down many trees to sell wood because people around the world need timber for building or for other uses. Some families also clear small parts of the forest because they need land to grow for food or to collect wood as a fuel or charcoal for cooking and heating. Forests are also cleared to build roads, to search for oil, to dig mines, or to make dams for water and power. These are some of the causes why deforestation happens. Now, what are the following products from deforested lands? First, we can have the oil and gasoline. We can also have the food and the cosmetics containing palm oil. We can also have paper products, and we can also have the aluminum, and we can also have some different kinds of minerals like metals. Also, we can collect gems and other electronic components. Now, what is the lost value from deforestation? Actually, cutting down forests brings big losses that are hard to measure fully. According to experts, they say that the harm to people's well-being equals about 2 to 4 trillion dollars every year. On top of that, we will lose the work nature does for us and the value of carbon stored in trees. These losses could be even larger than the number we just said. Now, it is important for us to understand the ecological services protected under RED. We have the regulating services, the provisioning services, the supporting services, and the cultural services. In regulating services, forests help control our climate by taking in gases that warm the earth. They guide when and how much rain falls, and it keeps soil from washing away. Next is the provisioning services. This is when forest gives us things we need to use. This includes food, clean water, and special traits in plants that help grow better crops. We also get useful things like herbal medicines that do not require cutting down trees. Next one is we have the supporting services. Forests help make and keep healthy soil. They move nutrients around so plants can grow well. They also give safe homes to all kinds of wild plants and animals. And last one is the cultural services. Forests carry meaning for people's beliefs and traditions. That is why they are places for rest and learning too. Many native groups and local families depend on them to keep their way of life and history alive. And those are the following ecological services that would be protected under RED. But this is where it gets interesting. Some of you might wonder, would RED cost money? In terms of cost and funding, RED does require money to work. It pays for the natural services forests provide and also replaces the income people would have earned if they cleared the land instead. This covers money that would have come from logging, palm oil plantations, or soy farms. Experts estimate it would cost about 20 to 30 billion dollars every year, mostly coming from wealthier developed nations. That money goes toward forest protection, carbon offset programs, and helping people find other ways to earn a living without cutting trees. As for human rights and livelihood, we also need to remember how forests affect people. Around 1.2 billion people depend on forests for their daily income to survive, and about 2 billion people use wood from forests as fuel for cooking and heating. So any plan must respect the rights of native groups and local communities who live there. Also, the support and funds should reach these communities directly and not just stay with national governments. And as for the last topic for my report, we will discuss forest harvesting methods and management. So the most common one is the clear cutting. This is one of the most common way of harvesting trees. In this method, every tree in a chosen area is removed, no matter what size or kind they are. It is widely used in the United States and Canada to get wood for building or making paper. It works well if you want to grow a group of trees that are all the same age and love the sunlight like pine or aspen, but it also causes problems. It can make the soil wash away easily and destroys the home of wild animals. So it may take hundreds of years to bring back the kind of forest that was there before. So in order for us to avoid those cones, we have alternative harvesting methods. There are other ways to get wood that cause less harm. These keep the shape of the forest, protect the ground cover, and keep many different plants and animals living there, much like in the natural forest. One way is the shelter wood harvesting. In this method, mature trees are cut down in two or more separate stages. This lets new baby trees grow safely under the shade and shelter of the trees that are left standing. Another one is the strip cutting. People only cut trees in narrow long paths while leaving all the forest around those paths untouched. And last one is the selective cutting. In this method, only a few mature trees are chosen and taken out, and this is done only once every 10 to 20 years in the same area. Now, what do you think is the most convenient harvesting method? Let me know your thoughts on the comment section down below. And that ends my part for this chapter. This chapter will be continued discussing by my partner, Miss Rusminda Guro. These are the following references that I added for this report. To end this report, I want to remind everyone that conservation is a shared responsibility that connects every person with the natural world. By protecting plants, animals, and ecosystems, we protect our own future. Every step, no matter how small, contributes to a healthier planet. Thank you for listening, students. For my activity, I will be sending the instruction in our group chat together with our professor in this subject. Thank you and have a good day.